I was at a local brick and mortar. I say local, an hour away, and I had been in there a few times before. I've bought a couple of pipes there. I was there just kind of browsing around, and this time they had a basket full of pipes, $5, $10, $15 pipes. They didn't have those before, and I'm digging through them and taking a look at them. They're in fixable condition, smokable condition. They're not terrible, you know. They all need some work, but they're not totally trashed. This is the first basket of basket pipes that I've actually seen, and so I'm going through them, and the shop owner comes up to me, and we start talking about pipes, and I tell him, you know, I restore these things. I tell this guy that I'm just kind of browsing, right? And we're talking about pipes. I tell him that I've been working on some, you know, I go through what they are, and what I would be interested to find. And he says, you know what, I've got something for you, give me just a minute. And he runs into the back. He's gone, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 minutes. And he comes back out, and he has this pipe. He says, this is called a Kirsten. He says it's a Kirsten, kind of a weird, quirky pipe. He said they have a very, how did he put it? He said it's got a loyal following. Like there are people who are kind of fanatics about these things, and they like to fix them up and collect them. He said if you clean it up, you can get probably $75, $80 for it. He said go ahead and take that one for 10. And this is the pipe. This is what he gives me. Okay. It's a small aluminum pipe. He's like, you can have it, you know, $10. And I'm looking at it and I'm looking at it and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I don't think that's a very interesting or attractive pipe. It reminds me of a falcon, only it's not cool looking, it's not pretty like a falcon, it isn't sleek like a falcon, it looks like a cheap, clunky attempt to be a falcon, which I find to be an elegant looking pipe. And I had wanted a falcon. If I was going to get something aluminum or you know, maybe this is a radiator style, I'm not sure. If I was going to get anything like this at all, it was going to be a falcon. I had no interest in anything but that when it came to this style of pipe, because I think they're really sharp. But you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. The guy, you know, he went into the back and spent some time back there digging before he came out and handed me this one. And he's like, you can have it for $10. And I try to support local businesses when I can, and I didn't want to walk out of that place empty-handed, and I wasn't seeing anything else there that I intended to buy except a couple of ounces of some house blends, which of course they're not making any money on, you know. So I thought, this guy went to the trouble of going back there and digging this thing out. It's $10, you know, what's it matter? I'll buy the pipe. So I said, thank you very much, and I bought the pipe. And as he's ringing it up, and a couple of blends that I bought, on the shelf I notice this red box with a Meerschaum pipe inside of it. And I asked him about it. I said, can I look at that Meerschaum? And he says, yeah, go ahead. The price tag was $250. And it was a sharp looking pipe. Kind of a pot shape is the closest to what I could think of. I would call it a pot. So I asked the guy, what is this? And he says, well, it's an Andreas Bauer. He said, that's a 1980 unsmoked Andreas Bauer. And then he stopped himself and he says, well, I've smoked it twice. He said, I've smoked 2 bowls out of it, of an aromatic, but when I bought it, it was completely unsmoked. He said, in 1980, when it was brand new, that was a $300 pipe. So, adjusting for inflation, you know, I don't know what that would be today, a few $100. He said, I can't seem to get rid of it. It's been in there for $250. He says, I'll sell it to you for $200 now. And I said, let me think about it, you know. And I paid for my stuff, and I sat down, packed a bowl, and sat there and smoked it and thought for a while. And I started looking up Andreas Bauer pipes online, and I'm seeing some that have a similar case. I don't know anything about this brand, okay? I'm seeing some that have a similar case, none that look like the same shape. And I'm doing a quick cursory search, and I'm not getting a whole lot of information. But the information that I'm getting looks like it indicates that this is a very pricey pipe, that this thing could be worth $500-600, maybe up to $1,000. I don't know. It looks like a minimum price that you're going to pay for one of these that has been smoked, that has been heavily smoked, is $200 to $300. So I'm thinking, that's why would he offer $200, you know? And I ask if I can go up and take a look at it again. Yeah, sure. He pulls it out, you know, shows it to me. I'm handling this thing. I'm taking pictures of it. I'm looking at it very closely, and it just doesn't. Something doesn't look right. There were all of these small things about it that seemed off. It didn't have the tenon in it. Looked like a cheap plastic, kind of a cheap plastic aftermarket tenon. It didn't look like something that you would place in a nice Meerschaum pipe. And I noticed that when you pulled the stem off of the shank and looked at it, there was a little number, I think number 12, there was a little pencil mark on the end of the shank, which made me think, because working on carburetors, working on engines, sometimes when you take something apart that has a lot of little pieces that you're going to have to put back together later, and those pieces mate with each other, they have to ride with a mate, you'll number those pieces so that you know which ones go with which, right? And that's what this reminded me of. I thought, it looks to me like maybe they replaced the tenon, and whatever repair shop they took it to numbered the tenons and the stems and the shanks so that they wouldn't get stems mixed up with the wrong stummels, right? Say you've got several pipes and some of the stems look similar, you might want to know that this is this customer's pipe. I've separated these two parts. I want to make sure that the right stem goes back to the right pipe before I give this back to the customer. That's what it made me think could be the reason why there would be a very small number written in pencil hidden inside the shank, or on the surface, you know what I mean, of the shank. So the tenon looked bogus to me. The shank itself had a twist to it. If you held the pipe and faced it, you could see that the shank had a twist. At first I thought it was just the stem, but I noticed that the stem was in line with the shank. And if you hold the pipe at certain angles and look at the shank, you can clearly see that it was made with a twist in it, which is really strange. If you're holding the pipe facing it, the twist goes to the left. It turns slightly to your left, counterclockwise. It looks like, it struck me as poor craftsmanship. I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's odd, you know. I'm thinking it looks like such a nice pipe. How could you overlook such a simple detail? How do you get the bowl shaped so well? How do you get the stem shaped so well and screw up, like overlook something as obvious as a pretty sharp twist in the stem and the shank? I just thought, you know, I don't know. It looked to me like it might be cheap, but it was a kind of cheap that didn't make sense. What else was it? The bowl had clearly been smoked but the very bottom of the bowl looked fairly clean, and there was no coloration anywhere else on the pipe except for a little spot on the inside of the rim. Now, I don't know a lot about Meerschaums. I know very, very little about them, but from what I've read, my understanding is they will start coloring pretty quickly. And if it had been smoked regularly, and then say someone sanded the inside of the bowl to try and make it look fresh, like an unsmoked pipe, they wouldn't be able to undo the coloring on the pipe. So that lent some credibility to his claim that it was virtually unsmoked. But I still wasn't sure what I was looking at, and I said, yeah, I think I'll pass on this one, man. And the guy says, I'll tell you what, I'll sell it to you for $150. And I said, nah, I think I'm gonna pass. And he says, I'll sell it to you for $120 right now. $120 out the door. I came this close to buying it, and I didn't. I said, I can't, the pipe is talking to me. I've heard of people doing, they'll go for a birth year Dunhill pipe. For whatever reason, there are some people who are really into trying to find a Dunhill pipe from their birth year. And that's kind of a cheesy thing to me, but I have wanted a Meerschaum pipe, and this guy is saying this thing is 1980, which is my birth year. It had the original sales card inside that showed $300, and then that had been, a line had been drawn through that, and below that had been written $250. The box was in great condition. The pipe was in great condition. It needed a little bit of superficial cleaning, but it was sharp looking. It was very clean looking. It was what I would consider a pot shape, or very close to it. It looks like it would smoke like a pot. So I'm looking at this pot-shaped Meerschaum pipe that's my birth year, and I'm really tempted to buy it, and I just couldn't. The guy says $120, out the door, and I'm like, nah, man. I just felt something felt off. It didn't make sense to me that this guy is dropping the price over and over and over again. It made me wonder. It made me think something is up. Something's not right here. He was acting like it was hot, and he's trying to get rid of it. Like someone would when they're trying to sell something that they've stolen. Come on, anything, just take it out, take it now. I couldn't. I just felt weird, and I had a check, a gut feeling, like, nah, man. So I thanked him, and I started to walk out the door. And on my way out the door, I heard him behind me kind of sigh very heavily, like he was frustrated. And of course, that made me feel even more uncomfortable. So I was glad that I didn't buy it, and I left. But for the next couple of days, this was driving me nuts. I couldn't quit thinking about that pipe. And I start digging on the other one that he gave me. I thought, I don't know anything about that one. The main thing keeping me from buying the pipe right away was just this uneasy feeling over how desperate this guy seemed to be to get rid of it. Which wouldn't make sense if he's got a gem on his hands, like a 30-year-old unsmoked on nice Meerschaum pipe. If it's really what he says it is, it's a steal. But I can't trust this guy. I don't know him. And then it struck me, I was like, well, I bought this little Kirsten from him. Is it Kristen or Kirsten? It's Kirsten. I'm like, I bought this from him. He told me, I paid $10 for it. He told me that if it's cleaned up, it's a $75 pipe all day long. Thought, well, why don't I look up this pipe, do some digging on it, and see if there's, maybe I can confirm the claims he made about it. And if there's something to that, then maybe he's an honest guy, you know? So I did my digging, and everything that he told me about this pipe was true. Including a clean one that's used will go for $75 all day long on eBay and other auction sites. Everything that the guy told me about this Kirsten pipe was true. And he sold it to me for $10, knowing this stuff. I'm like, okay, that's kind of crazy. So I start digging into the Andreas Bauer, trying to find out what I can find out. There was a man named Fred Bass, or Fred Bass, who has written a lot of articles in various places online. And he was, for many years, he's passed away now, for many years he was a recognized authority on Meerschaum pipes. You can find his articles by searching for his name. He wrote for pipesmagazine.com. I believe he's written for rebornpipes.com, Steve Laug's blog. Interesting information. This man was apparently a wealth of knowledge. He knew all kinds of things about Meerschaum pipes, and he's written some very interesting articles. I started digging through those. And he said that there was this man, Andreas Bauer, was recognized as he was an Austrian pipe maker who for many years, from the early 1900s on, for many, many years, he was recognized as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, artisan pipe maker when it came to Meerschaum pipes. And he carved all of his by hand. Eventually, he had a family business selling these pipes that used amber stems. Solid amber stems. Known the world over for their quality. It became a family business, and eventually, I guess, other family members stepped in and were making some of the pipes, I think. Somewhere in the 60s, I believe 1961, Turkey made it illegal to export full block Meerschaum, the high quality Meerschaum that is used in all your Meerschaum pipes today. Now, for a while, there was a spot in Africa where they were using Meerschaum. They had mined it. The impression I get is that all of that Meerschaum has been mined, and that's no longer a source for Meerschaum that people make pipes with. But Turkey still is. And it was made illegal in 1961, I believe, for them to export it. Well, Andreas Bauer had gotten all of his Meerschaum from Turkey, and he would have it exported to Austria, where he would make the pipes. And he couldn't do that anymore. It was hard to keep the business running. Someone else bought it. And eventually, it went through, I think, a couple of changes of hand. And eventually, a family called the Koncaks, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Koncaks were the ones who wound up buying the Andreas Bauer brand. And I tried to find this article for this video. Ben, I'm sorry, I couldn't find it. I was looking and kind of in a rush. I wasn't able to find it, but if I do, I will put it in the description after the fact later. This family, Koncak, they bought the Andreas Bauer name, and apparently with it, they acquired a lot of pipe making materials, pipe packaging materials. So red boxes, like the one that I saw, that had a plate on them that said made in Austria. They even had some of those when they purchased the Andreas Bauer name. And they were making pipes in his name in Turkey and putting them in packaging them and selling them in boxes that said made in Vienna. So there is this Koncak era, quote, of Andreas Bauer pipes And by this time, he's no longer involved. He may have been dead by this time, but he and his family are no longer involved in making the pipes. They are Andreas Bauer pipes in name only. They're still good quality pipes, but they're not like the old school ones. They used something called cultured amber. Instead of a complete, like a full pure amber stem, it was amber mixed in with some other kind of composite material to, it's still very pretty, but to, I guess, reduce, to make them more durable. They wouldn't chip as easily and not quite as heavy and fragile as pure amber, is what I understand. But they would also, it was cheaper to make. So they're called cultured amber. I think prettier than the pure amber stems from the old authentic Andreas Bauer pipes, but whatever. So this Koncak family took over the name and started making these pipes, still very nice pipes. And because they had his name on them, they were still going for a hefty sum of money. This change of place, or change of ownership, took place somewhere around 1990, if memory serves me. Again, I can't find the article, and it's been months since I read it. I'm sorry. I'll have to find it. But the initial shift in that change of hands, leaving the Bauer family and moving through new ownership, was late 70s to early 80s, and that's when these red boxes started popping up with the cultured amber stems. And they began using, I read, Delrin tenons, which Donnie Stovepipe brought this up the other day in a phone conversation with him. He was able to confirm. I mentioned the funky looking tenon to him. He said the same thing. He confirmed that they use, Andreas Bauer's used Delrin tenons from that era. I looked up some pictures of those tenons. They match what's on my pipe. I hunted through photos of Andreas Bauer pipes, and I kept seeing auctions that had gone where some of these pipes had been sold, and they were all listed as being from that same era, late 70s to early 80s. They all show pipes that are in the same box as what this guy had. I even managed to find a photo where the stem was pulled away from the shank, and there was a small number written in pencil on the stem part, or the shank. I can't remember which. I managed to find there's nowhere on this pipe does it have the old Andreas Bauer symbol or stamping anywhere on it or anywhere in the case. The case does say Andreas Bauer, but on the pipe itself there wasn't anything that said Bauer, Andreas Bauer. But I noticed that the design that had been stamped or carved into it, I found some pipes that were sold as Andreas Bauer pipes from that era, and they had the same exact design. I even managed to find one that had a twisted shank. It was twisted the same amount that this other one was, and in the same direction. Everything I found online said this is an authentic Andreas Bauer pipe. And the ones that I was finding online were going in smoked condition, were going for $400 to $600, some of them even higher. So I thought, okay, this thing looks legit. And I went back over to the shop, and I told the guy, I'll go ahead and take that pipe. I said, will you still sell it for $120? He says, no, $150. You got it. It's a deal. I bought it. I brought it home. And here it is. This is the box it came in. Right here. Hopefully you can see that plate there. What does it say exactly? Andreas Bauer and Son, Wien, Austria, guarantee for ever, NR USA, and then there's a number that's scratched in here. I can't tell in this lighting. 3585. On the right side it says made in Austria, finest cultured amber. Hopefully you can see that. If not, I will try and upload photos. So this is the box that it came in. The tamper, these pipes came with a tamper. The tamper's missing from this one and it's been replaced with another one. I'll try and show you. The lighting in here is no good, man, and I gotta get it fixed. This is what it looks like. Okay. The original card, the original sales card, right there. Every auction, every example that I found online of these pipes being sold, pipes from this era, they all had little details that matched this pipe. I'm convinced, and again, I spoke to Stovepipe, I spoke to Donnie, and showed him some pictures, and he said, yeah, this thing looks legit. I'm convinced this is an authentic Andreas Bauer, Koncak era Andreas Bauer, full block Meerschaum pipe. I will show some better photos. You know, the lighting in here, when it's nighttime and I'm in the shed, the lighting is just, c'est pas bien. You can see, you know, this is the cultured amber stem. That's it. It's very lightweight. When you wet your finger and stick it in the bowl, it sticks immediately. I don't know if you'll be able to see the twist in the shank. Yeah, you can kind of see it right there. See how it's twisted like that? Isn't that weird? You know, it's just a little crooked. I don't know why. This is it. So it needs a little bit of cleaning. It needs a little bit of cleaning. It's a decent size. The man that sold this pipe to me was named Neil. And so naturally, he sold me this one first. This is Neil. This is pipe number, I don't remember, 7 or 8. I want to do videos on all my pipes. I'm jumping around though. This is Neil. And, you know, a couple days later I went back and got this one. So, this is Neil, and here's Neil Jr. Of course, you know, what else are you going to call him? Yeah, this is the first Meerschaum that I've bought. I'm convinced after the research that I've done and after talking to Stovepipe that I have an authentic Andreas Bauer, Koncak era Andreas Bauer from late 70s, early 80s. I paid $150 for this thing. And I'm assuming, I think, I'm not assuming, I'm taking an educated guess, it's worth several hundred. I don't know. I have not smoked it because I want to treat it, well, because initially I was thinking I'm not going to smoke this thing at all if it turns out that I could sell it for a profit. You know, if I could sell this thing for $600, like, okay, I'll do that and go buy a $100 Meerschaum to bang around, you know, to learn on. So I've been waiting until I had time to clean it up and polish it and take a look at it and try to confirm, try to make sure that it is what I think it is. It has taken me so long to get around to doing that. It's been sitting on the shelf for so long. I really just want to smoke it, and I've gotten very fond of just looking at it. So I don't think I'm going to get rid of it. Like, I believe I got a hell of a deal on this thing. I got a steal of a deal, and I'm going to enjoy that. I want to clean it up and smoke it. So, to answer your question, I know that's a very long-winded answer, but you asked a question that Ben smoking, I'm sorry, man, Ben smokes a pipe. You asked a question that could be answered with a video that I've been wanting to make for a long time and haven't gotten around to. And a video that I am pushed into making and inspired to make by an excellent video that Jeffrey from Life with a Pipe has just made. So that's the answer, man. I have not ever smoked a Meerschaum. I'm going to smoke this one. I need to do some more reading on how to take care of it. I need to clean it up first. There was a really slight, looked like a paint or marker spot on one part of it that I thought I could just kind of wipe off with my thumb, and it didn't come off that easily, so I tried to scratch it off and actually scratched the Meerschaum. I didn't know that it was that sensitive. Or fragile, I mean. Where is it? You're probably not going to see this in this light. Very faint scratches. You can kind of see it. Right here, you know? Very faint scratches I put on this thing with my fingernail. And I mean, I wasn't going very heavy, you know what I mean? Yeah. This is my first Meerschaum, Neil Jr. Koncak era Andreas Bauer. I'm 99% sure. And I got it for a steal, man. It's very lightweight, remarkably light. It's so light you would think it's made of plastic. So, yeah, Ben, I look forward to smoking it. You've got a lot of Meerschaums. I will hit you up for some tips and advice, man. Definitely interested. I'm antsy to get to that one, but at the same time, I'm going to take my time and enjoy the deal that I got. You know, I think it's beautiful. It came in this case and everything. Like, it's sharp, man. I dig it. I would like to know, and if anybody out there knows anything about this, you know, on that plate, there's that number. I would like to see if that can help me nail down the year of manufacturer. 3585. In the videos that I've seen, some pipes have, some boxes have that number and some don't. The guy that sold it to me said that the guy that sold it to him claimed that he bought it in 1980. So I would be the third owner. Yeah, he said that the man told him he bought it in 1980. I'd like to try and nail down a year when this was made. I've noticed that I haven't seen anywhere online, I have not seen a single example of that shape of Andreas Bauer pipe from that era. Smooth, what I would call a bent pot. Haven't seen them. Maybe a bent bulldog. So, yeah, that's my Meerschaum pipe that I haven't smoked yet. That's my Meerschaum story. This video is much longer than it should have been. I'll try and edit it down.